Hello and welcome to another episode of this week's watches. And this week, like every week, we have a great variety for you guys and girls, from an incredible Cartier, which we're going to take a closer look at shortly, to a limited edition Airain, to two Fears, both discontinued. There's some really great stuff here today, and I think something for everyone, from vintage to modern to brand new. I think there's really going to be something you're going to find that you like as well. Now, as always, if you'd like to skip to a specific watch, skip all my rambling, you can do so via the description. There is a link to every single watch to go straight to the website. You have to excuse the noise. There's also a timestamp to skip to the specific part of the video where you can see me discuss that watch, try it on wrist and show it in closer detail. We keep it nice and simple. And obviously, if you have a watch you would like to sell, head over to the website, complete the sell section on the form, and we'll get back to you as quick as we can. We usually try within 48 hours. It's usually within 24. Sometimes it can take a little bit longer, so I do apologize in advance, but keep to that one mode of communication. It gets very confusing when you email, phone call, message, and WhatsApp all at the same time, because it's not always me who deals with every single one of those channels. So you might get varying messages. So stick to one, keeps it nice and simple. And if you're watching this on the day of release, Saturday, we will be at the World Time UK event. We are not displaying. There was some confusion when I announced it on Instagram. We're not displaying there. This isn't a trade show. We're not selling anything there. We are attending as a team just to check out the watches, see the brands, and see a lot of people we know very well and sort of catch up with. It's always good fun. So we'll be there. If you're there, pop by, say hello, come find us. I'm sure you'll see us. We'll be walking around, Danny will be walking around with the camera, and I'll probably be there with a microphone doing some interviews and looking at some watches. So come and say hello. Now that all of that is out of the way, let's show you what's on wrist. And this is so cool. I had to buy it. I probably overpaid, but at the end of the day, I just don't think I'm going to find another one. And this is my challenge to you guys and girls. I want you to try and find this watch. This is a Timex, a potential prototype from the 1970s. And as you can see from the dial, it looks like a jump hour, but rather than a jump hour, a traditional jump hour where the hours jump to show the time, Timex basically coupled a display disc to the hour hand. So as the time progresses, it reveals the time under the dial. Kind of unique, very interesting. I've never seen anything quite like it. And also from all my research, including my father's research and a couple of other collectors who have scoured the internet, they cannot find another one, which would lend it to being either incredibly rare or a potential prototype. And I would lean more on the potential prototype because of what it is. If it was just a standard watch, it's probably just a rare watch, but this isn't a standard watch. I think they were testing this out and seeing whether this is something they would do or not. So yeah, really funky, not for sale. It's going to stay in the personal collection. It's just a quirky, fun watch and one I'm going to enjoy, that's for sure. So first off, we're going to go over to the Cartier tank Basculante in mechanical. Now you sometimes see these pop up in quartz, you very rarely see them in general, so to find a beautiful condition mechanical is quite something. So let's take a closer look. What a watch to begin this week's episode. This is the Cartier tank Basculante. Again, probably butchering that. Basculante. There's a few different pronunciations I've heard. I don't know which one's correct, to be honest. Let me know down in the comments. But this is a gorgeous mechanical Cartier. Now you may be looking at this going, how on earth do you use the crown? It's sort of in the case like that, and as we turn it around, there's no way of getting to the crown from the sides. You can see a slight opening right there at the back. The way this works is you lift it up via the metal above the cabochon. If you can see, I'm going to do it like this just to make it a bit nicer. Because of the strap we put on, it's quite thick, so you've got to get in there to get it out. It's not an easy pop open, which is good. You don't want it just to pop open, so just give me a second. And there we go. Obviously, if you put this on a thinner strap, it will be slightly easier, but I like the fact it's not so easy just to open and close. And then it lifts out, as you can see. And you can see the beautiful pattern on the case back right here. And then the watch, I'll remove the cloth to make it a bit easier. The head of the watch basically pops out and can spin around. And you can push it down like so. Now, you'll be looking at this going, hold on, isn't that very similar to a JLC Reverso? And you would not be wrong. Obviously, the Reverso is one of the first watches to do this kind of reversible watch to protect the crystal. However, what I can tell you is there are very few Reversos that are anywhere near this thinness. Most of them are not even close, and to have everything incorporated into the head of the watch like this is very, very interesting. It snaps into place really nicely, and to change the time there's a little bit of a nag. You'll get the hang of it. What I like to do is sort of place the watch like so and then use the crown. Obviously it is mechanical, so you give it a wind and then you can pull out the crown sorry, the focus is gone. You can pull out the crown and then do it nice and easy to change the time as you would expect, and then push it back in, and you can wind like this, or you can wind whilst in. It's a little bit trickier. Obviously push it in, make sure it's all nice and flat, and you'll know once it's in properly, and then you can wind it like so as well if you so choose. So that's how to use the watch, a little bit of a rundown. Now there are better videos out there than how I've just explained it, but that gives you the general gist of the watch. Absolutely awesome, and you'll see a beautiful photo of it propped up on the website at a slight angle, which looks really cool. We paired it on this beautiful blue suede from the strap tailor, which I think suits the watch beautifully. This is the reference 2390, and inside is the manually wound Cartier caliber 060MC. The watch is from circa 2001, and it doesn't come with any box and paperwork, unfortunately. Very rare to find them with any box and paperwork, and there's definitely a huge premium when you do. So this is watch only. It does come with a little Cartier pouch, which is nice. But let's show it on wrist and taut dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. This is where this watch absolutely comes to life. What a beautiful looking timepiece. This is 25.5mm by 37mm lug to lug, only 6mm thin. That is super thin, and it wears super low on the wrist. Really, really beautiful. And you have 20mm lugs, so endless options on straps if you're not a fan of this combination. Just remember, the thicker the strap, the more difficult it is to open and close this, but the more secure it seems to stay. Obviously a nice thin strap would sit under that beautifully, so endless options. But go check it out on the website today. Sticking to the top row for now, we're going to go over to the Kurono Tokyo 2022 anniversary Grand Mori or Morai. Probably absolutely butchering the pronunciations as I often do, but let's take a closer look at this beautiful watch. So Kurono Tokyo time with the 2022 anniversary Grand Morai or Mori. Multiple pronunciations again, just like the Cartier we just looked at, but this features that incredible, almost emerald green dial, which absolutely plays with the light and really draws you in. It's very difficult to capture, but we have some beautiful macros on the website that really show that texture that's on the dial. Now the technique to the dial is all written about on our website, so make sure you read that, but it's going to develop over time, which I find super interesting, and no two are going to be exactly the same. So again, this is one of those watches where in the future it may look slightly different to how it does today, and that is interesting to me. Now this one is from June 2022, just come with its full box and paperwork. It is in fantastic condition, has been worn, but definitely not overworn. There's very few signs of wear, probably worn a handful of times at most. And inside this is the automatic Miyota 90S5, part of their 9000 series of calibers, which are very, very good. So a really gorgeous watch, but let's show it on wrist and taut dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, a very comfortable and good looking watch, that's for sure. This is 37mm by 43.5mm lug to lug, only 10.5mm thick and 20mm lugs. The strap it comes paired on is beautiful and pairs very nicely with it. However, I do think some sort of pop of green on the strap, which it has here, but I mean a full green strap could look quite incredible on this. So go check it out on the website today. Next, let's go over to the Fears, and we're going to start with the discontinued Brunswick Blue, a really beautiful watch. Let's take a closer look. So the now discontinued Fears Brunswick Blue. As a lot of you know, I own the Brunswick Brown, a limited edition of 5 watches Fears did, and I absolutely love it and I wear it regularly. However, just before that came out, I was toying with the idea of picking up the blue, and if I hadn't have got the brown, the blue is the one I would have added to the collection, and still some days I consider adding it to the personal collection. What a good looking watch. The way those appliques sort of play with the light and the sort of hollowed out syringe hands, it is amazing. The galvanic blue with the 2 finishes. It's a very interesting watch to try and capture because it's quite difficult the way it plays with the light, but on wrist it looks absolutely stunning. So the reference to this one is the BS23800A, and inside is the manually wound ETA 7001, a workhorse manually wound movement. As you can see, this has got some nice finishing, including the gold Fears pipette on the caseback, on the movement, sorry, which, as a lot of you know, Fears now don't do the open casebacks as standard, they do the closed casebacks, which I personally prefer, but it's nice that you've got the option of a closed an open caseback on this one as well. Paired on its Bristol blue leather, which suits the watch perfectly. And this one's from September 2020 with its full box and paperwork and in very good condition. It has been worn over the years, but very lightly and at sparing moments, so definitely not overly worn. At the end of the day, this is considered a bit of a dressy watch, so maybe special occasions. However, pair it on something a bit more toned down, I think it looks perfect with t-shirt and jeans. But let's show it on the wrist and taut dimension. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. It is on the regular length strap, so they do 2 strap options, a short and a regular. This is on the regular, and you can see where it fits on my 7-inch wrist. To be honest, I'd probably wear it one tighter, but there you go, really gorgeous. So I'm very familiar with the case proportions as I wear this watch all the time in my brown. So 38mm by 43mm lug to lug, 12mm thick and 20mm lugs. So endless options on this gorgeous watch. Go check it out on the website today. From there to a watch I think is massively underrated, and I think a lot of people missed out on when Fears was still producing this. Again, another discontinued. This is the Redcliffe Continental GMT. A GMT from Fears. Let's take a close look. So as I said, one of the most, in my opinion, most underrated Fears that they've made to date. This is the Redcliffe Continental GMT Quartz. Now Fears used to make quartz watches and they've long discontinued that range, with the Streamline being one of the last they ever made a limited edition run, which is absolutely fantastic. This is the reference BS13840, and inside is the Swiss Ronda Quartz 515.24D, and this one's from August 2019 with its full box of paperwork. You can see nice plain caseback, well, caseback designed, but plain area for engraving if you so choose at some point. But you can see it has the globe in the center, which plays with the light really, really well. I actually own one of these watches myself, and this has inspired me to get mine out and wear it a bit more. So expect to see it at some point. Now you might be wondering, where is the GMT? Well, that little display down at 6 o'clock, that is a GMT display that you can change independently. As you see, as we change the time, the GMT moves. A very interesting way of showing a GMT rather than a second hand, which I really prefer this. It keeps with the clean aesthetic that this watch is obviously aiming to have, while still providing the extra functionality. And with the globe, everything design-wise works so well. I actually hope Nicholas recreates this model someday with a mechanical version. I would love to see that. What would you guys think? But let's show it on wrist and taut dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. Again, perfectly proportioned and just sits so well, so comfortable. Paired on the regular length goat's leather blue, which looks fantastic. I think it suits the blue perfectly well. So this is 38mm by 44.5mm lug to lug, only 7.5mm thick, which explains why it wears so nicely, and 20mm lugs, so endless options. Fears offers some fantastic strap options, but obviously at 20mm you do have endless options. So go check out this watch on the website and pick yourself up an interesting Fears at under £1,000. From there, let's go over to the Airain Type 20 in brown. This is a limited edition mechanical chronograph. A column wheel actually as well for the price, which is just unheard of for the most part. Let's take a close look at this watch. Next up, the Airain Type 20 mechanical brown limited edition, heavily inspired by obviously one of their vintage watches, an incredible watch that they and many other brands made at the time. This is an awesome piece and one I think you're going to be very fond of. So if you're in the market for a vintage style Type 20 chronograph, your options are very limited, and finding one in good condition can be very hard. There's often lots of patina and potential risks that come with vintage. We all know this, we're all well aware of this. Vintage has that charm for a reason, and if you're in the market for that, fantastic. Go jump on it. But what Airain have done is they've provided a watch that looks almost identical. It even has the tropicalized brown dial and mechanical and everything else you could possibly imagine with the vintage, apart from it has modern reliability. You haven't got to worry about it as much, you haven't got to baby it. You can really go out and enjoy this watch. This is the reference 421.458, a limited edition of 134 watches total. And you can see this one's in fantastic condition. It has been worn, but very lightly. It still has its original strap, box, papers, everything you'd expect from July 2022. And inside is a manually wound Airain AM1. It's a mechanical chronograph, manually wound, and just a fantastic movement all round. And again, at this kind of price point, you just don't get this kind of movement and this kind of complication with the chronograph very often, especially with the vintage design. So again, it has all these tick points. If you're in the market for such a watch, this is one you're not going to be able to ignore. and rightfully so. I think it looks fantastic. Let's show it on wrist and tour dimensions. And here we are on my 7-inch wrist. It just sits beautifully and looks at home, especially on this sort of very dark chocolate suede strap, and it's a very, very fine suede rather than some of the suedes I'm more fond of. However, this looks perfect with this watch. So this is 39.5mm case size by 47mm lug to lug, so really perfect on the proportions. A bigger case size but not overly large, and works really well on the wrist. It is 14mm thick, but do remember some of that is down to the domed crystal, and it wears super nicely for a mechanical chronograph, and 20mm lugs, so endless options on the strap options as well. One well worth checking out and well worth admiring. Go see it on the website today. From that chronograph, let's go over to the Amiga Speedmaster Automatic with the silver dial. This is a slightly later than the sort of reduced at 39mm. These are the 40mm, slightly beefier, wear a bit better, and I think are really cool. So let's take a closer look. So next up, it is Amiga Speedmaster time, and this is the Speedmaster Automatic, often referred to as the reduced. However, I personally would consider the reduced to be the earlier 39mm references, whereas this one is the slightly updated and upgraded 40mm reference with the thicker case and also no longer a stacked movement. If I'm not mistaken, it's a variant of the 7750. So you've got the added benefit there. Really nice upgraded bracelet and quality. These are fantastic, and again, if you're not so fond of the 42mm size, you need something a little bit smaller, this is probably the one you want to be looking at if you still want all that heft of a modern watch. This is the reference 3211.30.00. This one's from September 2012, and it does come with its full box and paperwork. It is in fantastic condition. It has hardly been worn over the years, and it really does look amazing. Inside is the Amiga caliber 1164. And as I say, 40mm, but let's take a closer look on wrist and tour dimensions. I think this one's going to really surprise a lot of you guys and girls. And here we go, perfectly sat on my 7-inch wrist. This is super comfortable. Whilst I absolutely adore the 42mm Speedmaster, I think you could easily have that and this in a collection. It doesn't clash, because you've got the automatic, you've got the different layout of chronograph, you've got the dates. The whole design is very different, to be honest. Whilst it's very clearly a Speedmaster, it feels different. So really gorgeous piece. This is, in terms of dimensions, 40mm by 45mm lug to lug, nice and compact. You've got 15mm on the wrist, but it does not wear that thick, so do not worry. And 20mm lug, so endless options. A nice brown strap would look fantastic on this watch, although it's definitely at home on a bracelet as well. So go check it out on the website today. From there, let's go over to the Christopher Ward Ukraine edition, a watch that was produced for charity, and it did very well, raised over £150,000 for a fantastic cause. And we have the watch brand new here after already contributing to the charity, which is fantastic. So let's take a closer look. So next up, this is the Christopher Ward C63 Sealander Ukraine edition. And you can clearly see why it's the Ukraine edition. So Christopher Ward had a fantastic idea of making this watch limited, and they basically raised money for charity. They raised over 150,000 for the Red Cross, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of helping Ukraine. A really great initiative, and all the watches that were sold, the money went towards that, which was brilliant. And this watch is now available brand new for ourselves from July 2022 with its full box and papers. It's Elite SW200-1 inside. We've also included a strap tailor Ukraine edition NATO strap. If I'm not mistaken, the NATO strap is too big for the watch for this one, but obviously it can be used for any other watch as well. So you're getting these two things that have contributed to the Ukraine efforts, which I think is lovely, and you get to enjoy the watch if that's what you're after and you missed out on it. So here's your opportunity. We're not going to show it on wrist because, as I say, it is fully brand new and fully stickered, but go check it out on the website today. Next up, we're going over to the Nodus Avalon 2. I believe that's how you pronounce it. If I butchered it, I am sorry, but this one's in coral yellow. I'm a huge fan of yellow watches since my Christopher Ward, and this is also lovely. So let's take a closer look. Next up is the Nodus Avalon 2, or Avalon, however you pronounce it. And this is the coral yellow with that beautiful black ceramic bezel, which just looks fantastic. This whole case design looks brilliant. I think heavily inspired by the Seiko Turtle. I could be wrong. I'm sure they say something different maybe in terms of their inspiration, but to me it definitely gives off that turtle sort of case size and shape, especially with the smaller strap that comes off of it. I think it looks fantastic. The crown over at 4. The exact reference to this one is the AVA-COR, so Ava Core, and inside is the automatic Miyota 9015, so a 9000 series. A really nice case back on that. quick release on the bracelet as well to swap out onto a strap, and you have a nice milled bracelet as well, which is super comfortable and easy to wear. You do have a very good push glide as well, very similar to Christopher Ward and a couple of other brands. You sort of push it out and you can slide it back in. Apologies, the camera work was probably terrible there, but you get the idea. And this one's from July 2022 with its full box and paperwork, in worn condition, but very, very fair, worn a handful of times at most. And let's show on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, a very comfortable and very good looking watch. It actually wears a bit more compact than a Seiko Turtle, I'd say, but it definitely feels like that on wrist. You've got 43.5mm by 47mm lug to lug, 14mm thick and 20mm lugs. Endless options, although I think it looks perfectly at home on the bracelet, and that yellow dial I think is fantastic. Let me know what you think down in the comments and go check it out on the website today. Now onto the vintage watch on the table. This is a circa August 1984 Seiko Turtle. You guys and girls know I love a Seiko Turtle, so a vintage one like this, I'm all over it. Let's take a closer look. It's vintage Seiko Turtle time, and this is a wonderful example. For any of you who know your vintage Seiko Turtles, you'll know there is a big variation of references and prices, and this is one of the ones that is still incredibly affordable for what it is. You can get all the design and look of a vintage Turtle, but at an affordable price. This is the reference 6009-7049, and this one dates to August, circa August 1984, so a nice and early example with some patina somewhere on the bezel, all of the things that, in my opinion, add to the charm of the Turtle. You have the nice screw down crown over there as well, nice screw down case back. You've got day date on the dial as you'd expect as well, and the iconic Seiko hands, which brought all together, looks wonderful. Now, beating away inside this is the automatic Seiko Caliber 6309, a very reliable and well-used movement across the years from Seiko. And again, this just ticks all the boxes for that person out there looking for a Seiko Turtle, vintage one, and doesn't want to spend thousands to get a reference that pretty much looks the same but has those slight differences. Now, as a collector myself and someone who's owned multiple of these Turtles over the years, I can see the appreciation for doing that. However, this one I think ticks all the boxes at a much more affordable price, and you get all the same enjoyment in my opinion. So let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist. We've got it paired on this heavy duty NATO, which I think looks fantastic. This is 44mm by 43mm lug to lug, super compact, 14.5mm thick and 22mm lugs. Endless options. A nice black rubber strap would also look fantastic, but as you can see, it sits well on the wrist. So if you see that case size and you start worrying, I'd say don't. You know, wrist ergonomics is what Seiko do, and they do it well. So go check it out on the website today. Next up, the Seiko 5 Sports GMT, a really cool looking watch with a black and grey bezel. As a lot of you know, I had the Batman version myself for a little while. Fantastic value for money, undeniable. Let's take a closer look. And it's Seiko GMT time. This, when it came out, was amazing. They kept it under the wraps for so long. I think a lot of us actually missed it at first when it was released. I managed to pick one up. It was nicknamed the Batman with the blue and black, and this one is the black and grey. There is a slight colour difference, and you can't really get it on the camera. You can see it a little bit there, but it looks really great with the striking red of the GMT, and that is a GMT. You know, a GMT at this kind of price point you just don't hear of. This is the reference SSK001K1. Inside beating away is an automatic Seiko Caliber 4R34 that you can see through the exhibition caseback, if I can get it focused. It comes on a Jubilee bracelet with its Seiko clasp that you've all come to know at this point, and it does feel very comfortable on wrist. It's obviously slightly thicker and a bit more top heavy than some of the other Seiko 5s or the Seiko Sports line that this is part of. It doesn't have a screw down crown, and to fix the bezel alignment issue, they've just made it a friction fit bezel, which I know won't be for everyone, but it does, you know what, it feels okay. It doesn't seem to move too much on its own, but that's something to keep in mind with this watch. At the end of the day, you're getting an automatic GMT well under £500. There's not many brands that can even offer that at pre-owned, never mind brand new out of retail. So when they become pre-owned, the value becomes even better. This one's from July 2022 with its full box and papers for the rest of its manufacturer warranty as well. But let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, super comfortable and very good looking, especially on the Jubilee. I think it really works. This is 42mm by 45mm lug to lug, 14mm thick and 22mm lugs with drilled lug holes to make strap changes nice and easy for those of you who want to switch out from the Jubilee, although I'd personally keep it on there. So go check it out on the website today. And last but certainly not least, probably one of the best and most affordable dive watches in blue in my opinion. This is the Orient Mako 3. I really don't think you can get better for this price point, even from Seiko. So let's take a close look at this watch. So Orient Mako 3 time. These are fantastic. Since the first Orient, they've been incredibly well priced and they've continued to do so. I've owned multiple of these over the years. I own the Komatsu in red, which I thought was one of the most fantastic watches at the price point, and this Mako is no exception. I'm not going to bore you with the reference because it's a super long reference. Inside, however, is the Orient caliber F6922, an in-house automatic caliber from Orient. Orient are now part of the Seiko group as well, so you've got that behind it. Now, for those of you who are a bit fed up of hearing Seiko always mentioned when you're asking about an affordable dive watch, Orient is the brand you should be looking at. They produce equally great watches, arguably some better designs in my opinion, and at a more affordable price. So when they become pre-owned like this, even though this has barely been worn, the price becomes even more insane and well worth picking up. This one's from 2022 and it does come with its box and papers as well. But let's show it on wrist and talk dimensions. And here we go on my 7-inch wrist, very comfortable and very secure on the bracelet. This is 41.5mm by 45.5mm lug to lug, 14mm thick and 22mm lugs. So endless options on the strap, although I'd keep it on the bracelet personally. I think it looks at home. So go check it out on the website today. So there you have it, guys and girls. This week's drop, again, very varied, something for everyone, and it's what we try and achieve here at Kibble Watches. You guys and girls are well aware of this by now. So head on over to the website, kibblewatches.co.uk, check them out. You can see the photos, the prices, everything's there on the website, and you can check out via the website as well. Nice and quick. You can also make an inquiry if you have any questions that aren't answered on the website. I do recommend reading through the website. There's a couple of times where people have missed out on the watches because they've asked a question and someone's got to the watch before I've had a chance to answer the question, and the question was answered in the description itself. So it can be very frustrating, I understand, but please do read through that. We do answer as much as we possibly can in there, and if it's not in there, send us a message and we'll do our best to get back to you as quick as possible. So thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you all again in the next episode. Take care.